I have seen so many startups fall into this trap. This trap is one of the primary reasons why I believe that startups actually fail. So this trap is something I called the feature trap. So what does it mean? Let's find out. So as I was building my app with the programmer that I hired, it took us about 10 months to finish everything and get it to the point where it could actually be used by hotels. And, we actually could actually launch it and then, customers would use it. So when I actually finished the product, or thought that I was finished with it, I actually launched it with a hotel, and I got the hotel owner to pay for the software. So job well done, right? And the story there, nope, that's not how it ended. As I was working with that hotel, they were giving me a lot of feedback about the software that you should change this, add this, if you could put this here and move this. And I had no clue, right? I thought this was all great feedback. I should listen to my customer and do everything. As it turns out, that's generally not a good idea. Customers a lot of times know exactly what they want. However, they do not know if it's feasible, how many people you have, how long things are going to take, how much budget you have. So it was supposed to be my job as the founder of that company to realize whether or not the task or the feature that was requested by the customer was even feasible. And on top of that, the product was already at the point where the hotel could use it on a day-to-day basis. So at that point, after 10 months of grueling building process, my main focus should have been to actually sell the product to more than one hotel. So this is something which I believe is critical to get customer feedback from more than one customer, because if you have only one customer, what ends up happening is your product becomes geared toward just that one customer, and that customer may give you feedback, but if you don't have other feedback, you may not know which comments and which criticism and which feedback to say no to. And that's extremely important. Knowing what your product is, how to stay focused on the important stuff, how to actually build just the necessary parts or the parts that actually solve real pain point, and knowing when to stop, knowing when to actually say, you know what, this is what we've got. It's a good product. It's working. We need to focus on selling. That is critical. Selling was the part that I didn't focus enough on when I was building my software. And that's what killed the company. So I actually, after selling my software to the first customer, I actually went to the second customer. And lo and behold, they also found it very useful and economical to adopt. And then, so things were going great. And, I was walking down the street where there were tons of hotels, and I was trying to sell my software. And not all the hotels were, as inviting or as, easy to adopt the software. When I would go to like the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth hotel, and they weren't adopting it, I wasn't understanding why. So there was also a lack of industry knowledge, right? So, with these kinds of software, hotels don't change their software often. So when I went to all these hotels, they had already had some kind of software. And my product was a new player in the market, which means it was an uphill battle talking to these hotels and trying to get them to adopt the software. Some of them were intrigued and interested, and they would talk about it and they would ask questions, and I would give them my brochures. Yes, I did even print out brochures at that time. However, I always got to the point where, we already have this software and it's already working, so I don't know why we would adopt yours. Which usually a good salesperson would understand, okay, this customer doesn't fit my profile, I'm going to move on to the next. Sales is a numbers game. So if you meet a customer who says no to you, it's not necessarily that your product is bad. I mean, you have evidence that your product is working in 2-3 other hotels. It means that, I should have moved on and find other customers who are in the the phase of building their hotel or almost launching their hotel and getting to the customer right there. When I got all these feedback and pushback from customers, I became really like deterred. Like I lost the will to, do sales. So what ended up happening was I fell back to what I was comfortable with, which was engineering and building. So I thought to myself, if I build all the things that they asked for, they would buy it. And that is a trap that would kill any company, because you have limited budget, you have limited resources. If you just build, and you don't sell, and you just listen to all the feedback without filtering which one is important, which one you should do first, prioritize the most impactful things to build, you're just going to build yourself into the grave. And then that's when, that's the trap I fell into. So hopefully if you're out there, you're listening, you're starting a company, don't just build and sell. The method that I've at least now that I've learned is, if you're spending an X amount of man hours building your software, you need to be spending the X amount of that time, the equal amount of time, doing marketing and sales. Because otherwise you're not going to get a diverse enough feedback from your customer base, and then you won't be able to know which features a customer is asking for only applies to that particular customer and doesn't apply to your product vision or your the goal of your company. I'll give you one very simple example. One of the hotel staff asked me for this feature where they wanted to store credit card. Technically speaking, they should not be storing credit card, because we are not a PCI DSS entity. Like, we're not a PCI DSS compliant, software, and neither was the hotel. So neither was any software that the hotel, any competitor software that the hotel were using. They asked for it, and I'm like, well, do you really need to store credit card? And they were like, yeah, we do need to store credit card. And I said, actually, no, you should not be. The right practice should be to authorize and lock the amount on the card and return the card to the customer. You're not allowed to actually photocopy or file, do any of that stuff. So, this was the other challenge, was that, I ended up having to educate a lot of these hotels on modern, secure, practices for doing hospitality and handling, sensitive information like personal information. I mean, back then there was no GDPR, there was no PCI. Well, there was PCI DSS, but there was hoteliers were not aware of this. Us being the startup that was aware of all these problems, and that's one of the problems we were trying to solve. We had to do a lot of education and teach the hotels that this is not the right practice. So yeah, there was a lot of challenges. We made a lot of mistakes in terms of building too much and over engineering and not selling enough, not focused on selling enough. That was one of the main mistakes that I personally made, as a founder of this product, of this hotel management product. So that's pretty much it for this episode. I hope you all found it useful. Give us a like. Also share this video if you think it's going to be useful for anyone else. If you know anyone who's starting a company and you want to save them from this trap, you can share them this video, and also hit the notification button so that you get access to the next episode. It notifies you about the next episode when it does come out. And give us a like. Make sure it turns blue. And then with that, I want to wrap up this episode. I will talk to you all in the next one.